Jayden Daniels wasn't forced into his superhero cape, but his superpower is starting to attach one to him anyway. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, David Harrison, covering the Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. You'll also find me helping out this year with WUSA9.com's coverage of the team. I'm also here with you every Monday through Friday. I thank you for coming through for today's episode. If you're an everydayer coming back through like you do every day, a special thank you to you for doing so and being so darn consistent. Locked On Commanders is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders. If you haven't already, please subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's episode, where we are going to talk about the rookie record and the art of correcting mistakes. We're going to talk about some of those things. We're also going to talk about Jamison Crowder stepping up. We're going to talk about Jayden Daniels putting on the superhero cape for the Washington Commanders, all on today's episode, which is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Jayden Daniels wasn't forced into his superhero cape. In fact, in the beginning of his career, Dan Quinn made it very, very specific that he was not brought here to elevate this team as a rookie, to be the quintessential leader of this team. But his superpower is starting to attach one anyway. And that superpower is Jayden Daniels' ability to stay calm, even when he makes a big mistake that kind of looks like it could cost the Washington Commanders the game. He's still able to come back out on the field, keep his poise, keep his composure, do the things that he needs to do in order to help this team win. That is his superpower, and that is starting to shine in a very, very real way here on this After Action Review episode. We're going to start off our conversation post-Washington Commanders win over the Philadelphia Eagles, talking about Jayden Daniels' performance and doing a deep dive into the rookie quarterback and what he was able to accomplish. And of course, statistically impressive enough, right? 5 touchdown passes. He did have the 2 interceptions, but in total over 300 yards of offense, including quite a few rushing yards. I just picked up the wrong game stat sheet for some reason. 258 yards passing on 24 for 39 completion, 99.1 quarterback rating, so not quite 100, but again, 70 is kind of like the minimum. Like if you have a 70 passer rating, it's an average game. So anything over 70, you start to get to above average into excellent as you get over 100 and all those things. Of course, Jayden Daniels also led the team in rushing, 9 carries, 81 yards. He had over 300 yards of offense. And it wasn't just the numbers, but it was when those numbers came and how he kind of really flexed his ability to take control of this game. Resiliency is really, I think we all talk about poise. We're going to talk about poise here just a little bit, but when you talk about his biggest strength in this game, that resiliency is really what shined through. The game-winning touchdown drive, again, following an interception, his second interception of the game, really put the Philadelphia Eagles in a position with the ball late to where they could actually have the opportunity to potentially close out the game. And we would be remiss. It was our play of the day following the game in our live episode from Northwest Stadium, where Devontae Smith dropping a third down pass that would have given the Philadelphia Eagles a first down. 2-minute warning was coming up. Commanders only had 1 timeout left. Doesn't officially end the game, but it certainly would have put the Commanders in a much more dire situation. But because Devontae drops that pass, the Washington Commanders are able to allow the Philadelphia Eagles to take that field goal there. They go up by 5, and the Commanders have around 2 minutes with that timeout left. And that's where Jayden Daniels, again, puts that cape on and shows up. But there were 2 other areas where Jayden Daniels also put the cape on before we get to the game-winning drive that really kind of showcased how Jayden is really starting to grow into the quarterback role, into the leadership role that is the quarterback position. Because, again, whether he's got a captain's patch on his chest or not, or he's the weekly team, game captain or not, Jayden Daniels, just by being the quarterback, is a leader on this team. And certainly when you hear the players talk about him, you understand that as well. So growing into that leadership role, incredibly important for the future of Jayden Daniels. I give a lot of props to Dan Quinn and this team for not trying to force him into that role, at least from a public standpoint in his first season. I think that's a really great way to allow Jayden to grow into the NFL without any added pressure on top of already playing the most difficult position to transition from college into the pros in. But 2 calculated risks, because I think that's a really important part. When we talk about resiliency, we talk about resiliency in the light of something bad happened. How do you come back from it? Yes, that's a big part of resiliency. But another part of resiliency is also being able to and understanding when to take calculated risks. Because, of course, if you're taking any risk, calculated or not, you're risking the potential of failure. And that is where you have to bounce back from. So having that ability, because a lot of people will try to be resilient by avoiding mistakes and avoiding risk and not taking risks. That's not necessarily resiliency. Resiliency is understanding that you're going to fail at times, but taking those calculated risks that work out more often than not if you do it correctly. And there's 2 4th down conversions in this game that Jayden Daniels was able to capitalize on that really kind of showcase that part of his game in this week's win over the Philadelphia Eagles. The first one came in the second quarter, 4th and 4 at the Philadelphia 39. The team's trailing 21-7. It's a classic. You're down 2 scores. You haven't been able to do much. Rookie quarterback. You're going to press. You're going to force the ball. You're going to make bad decisions. Instead, Jayden Daniels drops back, doesn't see anything open, scrambles for 5 yards, converts the first down, makes the smart play. Again, the calculated risk. Yes, he's running. Yes, he's out of the pocket. Yes, he's a live target for the defense to try to hit, blow up, do whatever. But it's calculated. He gets enough for the first down. He converts, and eventually you get a touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin that trims that lead to 21-14. A non-resilient, non-calculated risk-taking rookie quarterback tries to force that ball in there somewhere to convert that fourth down play through the air. Jayden Daniels takes the calculated risk, runs for the first down, converts, ends up leading his team to a touchdown. Next one came in the third quarter, 4th and 11 at the Philadelphia 44. The team is now trailing 27-14. He scrambles on that 4th and 11 for a gain of 29 yards. And I know you remember that play. Even if you didn't watch the game, by now on social media, television, something, you've seen the highlight clip of that play. It was a great run. And again, it's another calculated risk. Jayden Daniels not only has to have confidence in his own ability to convert that and pick that up, but he's got to understand that it's the right situation to do so. Again, another young quarterback, another rookie quarterback somewhere might try to force that ball in somewhere, either get intercepted, lead to an interception, turnover on down. Jayden Daniels takes the best route, says, how can I keep my team alive? Gets those yards, leads to a touchdown pass to Olamide Zaccheaus, trimming the lead to 27-21. And I think very easily you can say, without those 2 plays, this team does not win that game. So clearly 2 very important plays for Jayden Daniels. Now, areas where he can improve, and I'm going to say poise. And I know that poise is going to hit your ear wrong because that's Jayden Daniels' strength, right? That's the thing we've been talking about all season long. That is his ability. And I just told you multiple examples where he kept his poise and made intelligent decisions. So I want you to understand, this isn't an area where he needs to improve from the entirety of the game. But we go back to that interception that set up the Philadelphia Eagles to potentially close out that game and come away with the win. It was lack of poise on that one snap that bit him in the butt. And that is what the importance of poise is. So even though it only happened on one snap, that one snap had potential massive ramifications for the game. That interception was a young quarterback just trying to do too much. What he avoided doing in those previous 2 plays that we just talked about, he did in that second interception of the game that, again, set the Commanders up for a potential loss there. Now, fortunately, again, Commanders defense stands up. Devonta Smith helps out by dropping that pass. So obviously, at the end of the day, no harm, no foul. You still get the win. But that is going to be one of those reps. When you hear Dan Quinn talk about Jayden's going to go back to the tape and want some of these snaps back, that's going to be one that he wants back. But better yet, it's going to be one that he wants to improve on moving forward. Now, there is still this conversation out there, not amongst Commanders fans and not amongst a lot of other people. Matt Ryan, in fact, NFL analyst, actually has already said that Jayden Daniels has clinched the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. I agree with Matt, but just in case you're a Broncos fan watching this show, I don't know, or in case you have a buddy who is a Broncos fan and thinks that Bo Nix is going to win it, or you have a buddy that's a Jags fan that thinks that Brian Thomas Jr., who has had a great season, especially given the context of what the Jaguars are going through. Here's some numbers for you. Jayden Daniels is number 1 in completion percentage, passing yards, touchdown passes, touchdown percentage, passer rating, wins, fourth quarter comebacks, and game-winning drives among all rookie quarterbacks this season. And yes, the Offensive Rookie of the Year is not a quarterback award as much as the MVP award is, but those are some really great quarterback numbers. The Washington Commanders are about to clinch a playoff spot. Those are pretty impressive numbers. And He's number one in quarterback rushing by nearly 300 yards, again, amongst rookies. Number one in rushing first downs with 46 of those. And he's number one in rushing touchdowns by 2 of them. So I think Jayden Daniels probably has this Offensive Rookie of the Year award all but clinched. Speaking of clinching, the Washington Commanders have a clinching scenario next week against the Atlanta Falcons. One way they can, all they got to do is win. There are 3 things that they can continue to do from this week's game that'll help them do that. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you in part by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it is not too late for you to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, if you're a new customer to FanDuel, you can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a dub. I love betting on which players are going to score touchdowns. I love on betting on how many points each team will score. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to get invested in games that you might not otherwise be invested in. Not only can you bet on who will win the games, but FanDuel also has bets for passing yards, rushing yards, total points scored, so many more things, including you can bet on the Chiefs, who are favored by 2.5 points to beat the Steelers on Christmas Day, or the Ravens, who are favored by 5.5 points to beat the Houston Texans on the same day. You can also wager on this Sunday night's matchup where the Commanders are going to host the Atlanta Falcons and are favored to win by 4.5 points. So go to FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the National Football League. After action review time here, Washington Commanders, Philadelphia Eagles, beating Philadelphia Eagles. Following that matchup, we're going to dive into the stash and trash portion of this week's episode. 3 things we want to see moving forward from Week 16, 3 things we want to leave behind in Week 16. And if you want to get even more out of the Locked On Commanders podcast, all you got to do is sign up to become an insider today. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. From there, you can text me your thoughts, your comments, your questions. I'll be sending you live information, live text, bonus content, and exclusive invitations to our insider-only Zoom conferences where we get together and talk about the thing that all of us are interested in, Commanders football, and especially Commanders winning football. You get to try it out for free for the first 2 weeks, so come through, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Our stash and trash of the week, we got 3 things we want to stash, 3 things we want to trash. We got a player, a play, and a team-themed focus point for each one of those. Again, our weekly disclaimer, the trash player is not me calling said player trash, but more so saying there's a part of that player's game or performance that we want to trash. I always have to make sure we're clear on that, because the day I don't clarify that is the day someone comes at me for calling a player trash, and that is not what we're doing here, guys. Our stash player, wide receiver Jamison Crowder. Yes, it's the same wide player as it was last week. Yes, he deserves it anyway. Yes, it's the first time I've ever done that. In fact, I actually typically intentionally go away from that. But listen, last week, Jamison Crowder came off the injured reserve, 3 targets, 3 catches, 27 yards. All 3 catches came on third downs, clearly being targeted in very important situations by his rookie quarterback that until these last 2 games had only played 2 games with him and didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to get reps. That is an impressive amount of trust developed between a veteran receiver and a rookie quarterback. This week, only 2 catches, only 15 yards. But guess what? One of those catches, a third down catch. The other catch, just the game-winning touchdown. Clearly, Jamison Crowder has earned a boatload of Jayden Daniels' trust over the course of the season, despite being on injured reserve for most of it. All Jamison Crowder does is make critical plays for the Washington Commanders, and we absolutely want to copy-paste that to Week 17 against the Atlanta Falcons. The play that we want to see sustained, Frankie Luvu flexing the big IQ. We know Frankie brings the energy. We know Frankie brings the aggression. We know Frankie brings the talent. But guess what? Frankie also brings the intelligence. Frankie Luvu's big IQ, interception. Eagles ball 2nd and 7 at their own 18-yard line. Commanders are in cover 4. The Eagles come out in 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end. Saquon Barkley is lined up in the shotgun with quarterback Kenny Pickett. 2 Kenny Pickett's left. A.J. Brown and tight end Grant Calcaterra are on the right side. Jahan Dotson is also on the right side, but he motions over to the left side where Devontae Smith, who starts alone on the left side by himself. All of it is tight alignment, so it's all kind of condensed there in the middle of the field. Nobody moves with motion on defense, so you're automatically thinking zone if you're Kenny Pickett, and You've got 2 high safeties. Middle of the field is open. So you're thinking either cover 2, cover 4, potential cover 6, maybe a cover 3. So you got to watch on how the safeties drop. At the snap, Kenny Pickett is immediately reading the seam defenders, the defenders that are along the hashes on the right side of the offensive formation. He sees linebacker Frankie Luvu kick outside with Grant Calcaterra, the tight end, who is releasing into the flat. Now, what that tells Kenny is that inside hitch route being run by A.J. Brown is going to not have an underneath defender. What he doesn't see, however, is Marshawn Lattimore, who's in the outside left quadrant for the Commanders defense in the cover 4, crashes down on that flat receiver, allowing Frankie Luvu to come off of that flat. Quan Martin drops down on top of A.J. Brown to cover that seam route, hitch route. Frankie Luvu comes off, reads Kenny Pickett's eyes. Again, we're in zone. The biggest advantage of zone is, as a defender, I can watch the quarterback's eyes. With Pickett locked into that seam route that Luvu seemingly comes off of, just as Kenny Pickett is getting ready to throw the ball, Luvu steps right into the trajectory of the pass, comes away with a beautiful interception. It is a high IQ play by Luvu that only happens because he trusts Marshawn Lattimore. Because go watch that play. It's not like Frankie looks over to Marshawn and says, hey, dude, take that guy. I'm coming over here. No, Frankie never takes his eyes off of Kenny Pickett. He kicks out with Grant, and he sees Kenny Pickett's eyes, and he says, I've got outside help with Marshawn. That's his job. I've got over-the-top coverage on the seam. That's Quan Martin's job. I'm going to read the quarterback's eyes. That's my job. Boom. Goes to where the eyes are looking because he trusts his teammates. He trusts the call, and he does his job with incredible IQ. He comes up with the pick. If he thinks Lattimore is going to get sucked in by A.J. Brown and that intense competition they're having and the rivalry and all that stuff, he's probably going to stay with the flat because he's going to be like, Marshawn's probably going to cheat inside with A.J., so I'm going to go ahead and take this flat, and then A.J. Brown's going to make a catch for about 6 or 7 yards. Massive IQ play. It's the quintessential description or teach tape of why it is important for an NFL player to do their job and play their assignment. The team thing we want to stash, the rise of the passing game. The Washington Commanders are top 10 in passing yards per play this season, 7.23 yards per pass. However, they're only like top 15 in passing yards per game because, as we all know, this is a run-first team. We talked about Jayden Daniels' stats in relation to other rookie quarterbacks. Well, let's look at him among the top 32 quarterbacks in pass attempts this season. He's 5th in completion percentage, 14th in yards, 10th in touchdown passes, 14th lowest in interceptions. That's good. 9th in passer rating, tied for 3rd in fourth quarter comebacks, tied for 6th in game-winning drives. Very good, stellar, excellent rookie season for Jayden Daniels. And the rise of the passing game is a part of that as we get to the end of the season, and you love to see it. Things we're going to trash again, one more time. Not trashing. We're not saying Brian Robinson is trash, but we do want to trash Brian Robinson's performance. 10 carries, 24 yards, 2.4 yards per carry, 2 fumbles. 4th game this season that Brian Robinson has been under 3 yards per carry in a single game. That is a career high. It's his first 2 fumble game, and he only averaged 3.1 yards per carry last week against the Saints. So this is back-to-back weeks. Not quite a pattern, but a little bit of a repetition. I asked Dan Quinn on Monday about the team's running game struggles these past 2 weeks, not just Brian Robinson, but outside of Jayden Daniels altogether, the running game. And he said, quote, there's always 2 sides to the pancake. And I think going in, we were certainly pleased against Tennessee. We probably have been one of the better run fronts that we had played against. So to miss on some opportunities, we were bummed. No question about it, man. Over the last 2 weeks, it's really important to us. We knew from Philadelphia there might be some runs that were not there to allow some play passes to go to get extended that way. But it is one of the areas that we got to dig in hard on. As we said, when we get to the truth, what's the ones to improve on going into it? That's one of the areas for sure. End quote. So Dan Quinn clearly wanting to see his run game from the running backs certainly improve. The play that we want to leave behind, screen passes. Let's just get rid of all the screen passes, guys, specifically the ones that are behind the line of scrimmage and 2 wide receivers. Now, total screen passes, 20.1% of Jayden Daniels' passes have been behind the line of scrimmage this year. That's 5th most in the NFL. Before anybody goes too crazy about it, Patrick Mahomes is 3rd. But when you get to specifically wide receiver screens behind the line of scrimmage, Daniels has thrown 53 of them, completed 49. That's 3rd most in the league according to Sports Info Solutions. The yards gained is 7th. The yards per attempt is 20th. The passer rating is 21st. Not an effective screen game when it comes to the wide receivers. We've got a lot of thoughts on why that possibly could be. But bottom line is, let's just see fewer of these wide receiver screens, man. They're just not working. Total team thing. Look, we're going to go low-hanging fruit here. It's the turnovers. 5 turnovers, most since week 11 of 2023. So it honestly hasn't been that long that we've seen this Commanders offense, not this Commanders offense, but the Commanders offense do that. Turned the ball over 6 times in a 31-19 loss to the New York Giants. 3 interceptions in that game by Sam Howell. Fumbles lost by Logan Thomas and Chris Rodriguez Jr. It was the 5th time dating back to the 2020 NFL season that Washington has turned the ball over at least 5 times in a game. The franchise record is 10 in a single game, which the franchise did twice, each against the New York Giants. The first time was in Week 13 in 1938. Next time was also Week 13 in 1963. The NFL record, interestingly enough, 12 turnovers, which happened in 1942 by the Detroit Lions, 1950 by the Chicago Cardinals, who are now known as the Arizona Cardinals, and in 1965 by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So yeah, let's not do the massive turnover thing anymore. However, let's continue the winning. Game balls coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode brought to you in part by Prize Picks. If you love watching the game, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the easiest, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy football, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, or any of your favorite sports. Play your daily fantasy sports with Prize Picks that makes your holidays bigger and brighter. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This past week, I had Buccaneers receiver Mike Evans, Bucky Irving. I also had Green Bay Packers running back Josh Jacobs, all on my ticket. All of my choices hit but one, and because of the way that Prize Picks does flex play, I was still able to make some money. I'm a little bit of a coward. I take the flex play. You can take the hard play, and you have to nail all your picks to win more money. That's fine. I like the option to lose a little bit. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play just $5 with Prize Picks. Run your game. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders is also brought to you in part by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That has definitely happened to me. It's also happened to my son. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year while using the app's premium features. Again, for me, finding those forgotten subscriptions, absolutely key. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Wrapping up today's episode with game balls and a quote from head coach Dan Quinn. My game ball is going to go to quarterback Jayden Daniels. Look, first rookie quarterback in franchise history to have 5 touchdown throws in a single game, 7th 5-touchdown passing game by a rookie in NFL history. So again, there are things this season, if you're watching the Washington Commanders play, which if you're watching this show, you probably are either in real time or after the fact or in the stadium. If you're watching this Washington Commanders team play, there are things this season that you are legitimately not seeing or haven't seen ever. Or at least it's like 1991. Like everybody's sitting there saying, man, I feel like I haven't seen this in a while. And some of those things, like, you know, first 7-win season or whatever it was since like 2021. Like some of these things are not super old records, but some of these records are 91. Some of these records are first time ever. There are legit things that Commanders fans are witnessing today that they have never witnessed before. Watching a rookie quarterback throw 5 touchdown passes in a single game, one of those things. All of the NFL watching people in the world of all time have only seen it 6 other times. That is how rare that is. Even with the 2 interceptions, even with some of the struggles the offense had, absolutely deserving of a game ball. The Washington Commanders, or Locked On Commanders insider game ball, is going to get cut into thirds. Jamison Crowder, Jayden Daniels, Frankie Luvu, all tying for the most votes from insiders. But we've got some other love too. Jake Elliott got a vote, which I thought was massively brutal. I thought Devontae Smith actually might get a vote too, but Jake Elliott for missing the end of first half field goal. I mean, as the game flow goes on, in theory, that turns into an 8-point game, which the Washington Commanders can't win on that final drive. The best they can do is tie. Olamide Zaccheaus got some love. Luke McCaffrey, kick return extraordinaire all of a sudden, got some love. Terry McLaurin, of course, got some love. Marshawn Lattimore. Tyler Biotish in his return, obviously making that offensive line better and that protection better, got some love. Cliff Kingsbury also getting some love. Remember about 3 weeks ago when it was the collapse of Cliff Kingsbury and all of us, media included, I'm not innocent from this, talking about how Cliff Kingsbury is getting figured out and all it's Arizona Cardinals all over again. Man, Cliff Kingsbury, hat tip to you, brother. You've been doing some really good work, and also shoe game is fire if you didn't know. Dan Quinn's quote that I'm going to pull out from Monday on Brian Robinson Jr. fumbling twice. Quote, how do you clear it? Because you do have to acknowledge it. You're mad. You're pissed. It's not like you say, don't worry about it. That usually makes you more mad. I don't know how you feel, but that, hey, don't worry about it. Well, like, hey, it's a big deal. I'm going to worry about it. And so how do you acknowledge it? You take it in. Why did it happen? I didn't lock my elbow down. I didn't clasp it on the way down. So as long as you can come to where the mistake occurred, that to me makes it easier because then I know what the correction can be. And so on the sideline, he was strong mentally. So he was ready to go. Obviously, he was still playing as the game was going. So it wasn't like we were taking him out and he wasn't going back in. He was clear-headed about what to do and how to take care of it. So he was mad, but I thought he didn't allow it to go and get on to the next one, end quote. And you love hearing that, not just about Brian Robinson, but any of these players. Listen, every player is entitled to have a bad game. Personally, like getting stopped by an opposing defense, there's more than just one player that goes into that, right? So I wouldn't sit here and tell you that Brian Robinson himself was bad just because of a 2.1 yard or 2.4 yard carry per carry average. That certainly goes in the offensive line and some other things, but the fumbles, obviously, that's where you get into, okay, Brian Robinson had a bad game in this one. Every player is entitled to a bad game. So Brian Robinson has done enough, I think, to earn the goodwill of people to not have one bad game, just kind of say like, hey, look, this dude is just not it. He needs to be benched, blah, blah, blah. So for Dan Quinn, acknowledging, look, you got to talk about it. You got to address it. You got to figure out why it went wrong. It's more important not to be mad, not to scold somebody, but to figure out why it happened, prevent it from happening again. And the fact that Brian Robinson in the moment, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the sideline, shots of him, but he was not happy, to say the least. That's putting it lightly. But the fact that B-Rod comes back in and goes after it as best as he can to get better and continue to help this team win really kind of just shows you who the competitor is in Brian Robinson. Absolutely expect a better version of him going up against the Atlanta Falcons this weekend. Coming up tomorrow, in tomorrow's episode, we'll go over our weekly 5 things that we learned. And we're also going to open up the mailbag. So if you got questions or anything you want in that mailbag, just drop them to me. And you can do that by texting me as a Locked On Commanders insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Send me your mailbag questions for your next listen. Check out Locked On NFL in the morning. It's a madman, Tyler Rowland, kicking you off with a double shot of NFL espresso. And then in the afternoon, you get the barbershop vibe with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. It's the all-new Locked On NFL, and it's twice per day. As always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day, everydayers. Thanks for coming through on a regular basis like you do. Until we speak again, if you are out and about, if you're celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you're not celebrating that but something else, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you're celebrating. I hope you are kind. I hope you are safe. And I will see you right back here next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.